You don't lose her all at once. It doesn't happen in a fight or in a single moment of betrayal. It happens quietly, in small, unspoken shifts, in the pauses between words that used to flow easily, in the glances that no longer linger. You'll start to feel it before you see it. A soft distance, almost invisible. She's there. She's smiling. She's saying all the right things, but something inside her has begun to wander. At first, you'll think she's just tired. You'll tell yourself everyone goes through phases. You'll notice she checks her phone more often, but you'll ignore it. You'll hear her laugh at something online, and for a moment, you'll wish she still laughed like that with you. It's not your imagination. It's the beginning of comparison. A seed planted so quietly, even she doesn't know it's there yet. She doesn't start comparing you because she wants to betray you. She starts because she's forgotten how to feel something new. For years, she's lived inside a story that became predictable. And the human brain, especially the emotional brain, is addicted to change. It needs contrast to feel alive. So when life becomes stable, when love becomes routine, the mind starts to search, not for danger, not even for excitement, but for feeling. That sharp edge of uncertainty, that spark of being noticed, that faint reminder that she still matters. She might not even realize what's happening. She'll talk about a coworker who's so driven. She'll mention how funny her friend's husband is. You'll laugh it off because it sounds harmless. But every small comparison is a withdrawal, a piece of emotional investment pulled quietly out of your account. She's not comparing your income or your looks or your success. She's comparing how she feels when she's with you to how she feels when she imagines being somewhere else. And that's the kind of comparison that doesn't end with logic. It grows in silence. It feeds on what's missing, not what's wrong. Because the truth is, you haven't failed her. You've just become familiar. And in a world that worships stimulation, familiarity feels like suffocation. She doesn't wake up and decide, I'll start comparing my husband to other men today. It's more subtle. One compliment hits differently. A stranger's attention feels more alive. Someone listens with fresh curiosity. And suddenly, that curiosity becomes a mirror, showing her what she's stopped seeing in herself. It's not about the man she's comparing you to. It's about the version of herself she becomes in his reflection. The woman who's still desirable, still interesting, still alive. But she can't see that in your eyes anymore. Not because you don't love her, but because love made her safe. And safety, over time, starts to feel invisible. She begins to romanticize her past. Old stories surface. Remember when we used to stay up all night talking? She says it with a soft smile, but underneath it, there's grief. Because she's remembering the version of herself who didn't have to search for meaning, the version who felt effortlessly alive. And now, sitting across from you at dinner, she doesn't know how to recreate that feeling, so she starts imagining it somewhere else. You'll notice she becomes more self-conscious. She'll try new clothes, new makeup, start going to the gym again, talk about self-care and feeling good. You'll be happy she's taking care of herself, but you won't realize that it's not just for her. It's for the invisible audience she's started performing for in her mind. You'll catch her scrolling longer than usual, pausing on pictures she doesn't comment on. Her eyes linger, not because she wants those men, but because she wants the attention they represent. She's comparing herself now too. Her beauty, her body, her youth. And in that silent measuring, you become part of the equation without even knowing it. You used to be her mirror, the reflection that showed her she was enough. Now the mirror is broken into 1,000 digital pieces, and each one reflects a different fantasy. You'll feel the shift when your touch stops grounding her. She'll still hug you, but her body will feel like it's somewhere else. The rhythm between you changes. The easy laughter fades. She'll start to correct you in small ways, or make subtle jokes that carry a hint of criticism. She'll compare, not cruelly, but constantly. And every comparison is a quiet declaration. I miss feeling something I don't feel anymore. You'll try harder. You'll plan something nice, say something sweet, remind her of your love, and for a moment, you'll see her soften. But then she'll drift again, because comparison doesn't stop with reassurance. It grows stronger when you try to fight it. Because now she feels guilty. And guilt, for most people, needs justification. So she'll begin to magnify your flaws. She'll notice everything you don't do, every moment you fall short. She's building a case in her mind, a quiet defense against her own disloyal thoughts. You'll think she's being distant or moody, but what's really happening is that she's rewriting your story together. Every loving moment becomes a memory she questions. Every argument becomes proof that something was missing. She's trying to convince herself that what she's feeling now isn't wrong. It's inevitable. And while she's doing that, you're slowly losing a part of her you didn't know was fragile. You'll feel it in how she stops asking you for advice, how she starts talking about needing space, how she tells you you're a good man, but says it like an apology. She'll insist that nothing's wrong, but the energy between you says everything. At night, she'll lie beside you, scrolling, sighing, thinking. You'll reach for her, and she'll turn slightly, say she's tired. But her mind isn't tired. Her mind is alive, playing scenes, imagining conversations, painting pictures of lives she'll never live but can't stop dreaming about. And all the while, you'll keep trying to fix what isn't broken, because you'll think love can heal comparison. It can't. Love is blind to the metrics the mind uses to measure worth. Once comparison enters, it turns love into a contest. And contests have winners and losers, never partners. You'll wonder what changed. You'll think it was you. You'll think maybe you stopped trying, stopped being interesting, stopped being enough. But the truth is, you didn't stop anything. You just stayed. You became the constant in a world that glorifies change. She's not comparing because she's evil. She's comparing because she's afraid. Afraid of fading. Afraid of irrelevance. Afraid of settling into a life that no longer excites her. The modern world teaches women that safety is suffocating, that excitement equals aliveness, that boredom means failure. So when her marriage becomes predictable, her brain interprets it as a warning, a loss of meaning. And instead of looking inward, she looks outward, at men who seem more confident, at couples who seem happier, at moments that look effortless. She compares, not to replace you, but to reassure herself that she still has options. And every time she thinks of those options, a small part of her loyalty erodes. Comparison doesn't always end in cheating, but it always ends in distance, because no one can be fully present in one life while secretly measuring it against another. The tragedy of comparison is that it doesn't destroy love suddenly. It dissolves it slowly, molecule by molecule, until what's left between you looks like love, but feels like obligation. She'll still hug you before work, still say, "I love you," before bed, but her words will carry the weight of memory, not meaning. They're echoes of what once was, rituals that her heart has quietly outgrown, and you'll feel it, because men can always sense when the woman they love has started to look at them differently. The eyes tell you everything. The tone confirms it. The energy shifts. What was once connection becomes politeness. What was once desire becomes duty. She still loves you in a way, but not the way you remember. You'll notice it in small moments. She'll mention another man's name in passing, and something inside you will tighten. You won't say anything. You'll just nod. You'll tell yourself it's nothing. But deep down, you'll know. It's not about the man. It's about the way she lights up when she speaks about him. It's about the spark in her tone, that tone that used to be reserved for you. That tone you haven't heard in years. You'll think about all the times you worked overtime to give her comfort, all the ways you tried to make her life easier. You built stability, and she mistakes it for stillness. You gave her peace, and she mistakes it for boredom. Because in her world, emotion means movement, and the irony is, you're the reason she can afford to crave chaos. You carried the weight, so she could explore her feelings. You created security, so she could search for excitement. You became her anchor, and she resents you for not being a wave. She'll never say it out loud, but she'll start to feel trapped by the very safety she once begged for. Her comparison isn't about wanting another man. It's about wanting another version of herself. The version who felt more alive, more feminine, more wanted. When she compares you, she's not evaluating your worth. She's chasing the ghost of her own youth. The days when validation came easily, when men noticed her without effort, when she didn't have to ask to be seen. And every time she looks at you, she's reminded that time has passed, that her reflection has changed, that the woman she used to be is now a memory living inside another life. You'll try to remind her of who she is now. You'll tell her she's beautiful, that she's still everything you ever wanted. But your love won't feel like proof anymore, because it's expected. And expected affection doesn't light up the same pathways as unexpected admiration. The human brain is cruel that way. It rewards novelty and punishes consistency. And that's why long-term relationships feel unfair. You can do everything right and still feel like you're slowly losing ground. Because you're not competing against other men. You're competing against how she wants to feel. And feelings have no logic. When she sees a confident man at work, she doesn't want him. She wants to feel like that version of herself again, the one who could draw attention effortlessly. When she scrolls through photos online, she doesn't envy their lives. She envies how those lives look alive. And that's how comparison infects love. It doesn't attack the relationship directly. It attacks meaning. It makes the present feel dull, the past feel wasted, and the future feel uncertain. You'll notice how her silence changes. It used to be peaceful. Now it's tense. She used to look at you with warmth. Now she looks through you. And in that silence, you'll start to lose your own confidence. You'll question everything. You'll wonder what you did wrong. You'll start watching yourself from the outside, measuring your words, trying to please, overthinking your every move. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Once a woman starts comparing, you can't win her back with effort. Because effort reminds her that you're chasing something she's no longer giving. And people don't value what pursues them. They value what they have to reach for. The tragedy is that your consistency has become invisible. She can't see what she's standing on, because it's too close. She can't feel your stability, because she's grown numb to it. And one day, she'll start testing you, subconsciously, to see if you'll still tolerate her distance. She'll pull away, just to see if you follow. She'll say things she doesn't mean, just to feel powerful again. It's not cruelty, it's control. She's trying to rewrite the balance that comparison has broken inside her. She's no longer trying to connect, she's trying to measure. How much can she push before you react? How much can she withdraw before you notice? She needs to feel something, even if that something is your pain. Because pain at least feels alive. You'll try to stay calm. You'll try to love her through it. You'll tell yourself this is just a phase. But deep down, you'll start to understand that the woman lying next to you isn't the same person you married. Not because she's changed overnight, but because comparison has rewritten her identity. She no longer sees herself as your partner. She sees herself as a woman stuck inside a life she's started to outgrow emotionally, or thinks she has. And that illusion is powerful, because once the mind believes there's more out there, nothing at home ever feels enough again. She'll start seeking meaning elsewhere. Books about empowerment, podcasts about rediscovering yourself, influencers telling her she deserves passion and excitement, all of it feeding the same quiet fire. The belief that maybe the life she built isn't the life she was meant for. You'll see her becoming distant in conversations, lost in thought, absent in moments that used to make her smile. She'll start to redefine words like love, happiness, purpose, not because she found truth, but because she's running from repetition. And you'll start losing the emotional ground beneath you. Because love feels different when you realize you're being measured against ghosts, men who don't exist, versions of herself that never return. It's not infidelity that breaks most marriages. It's comparison, because comparison replaces gratitude with judgment. It turns love into performance. It turns affection into currency. And no man can survive in a relationship where he's constantly being evaluated. You'll try to mirror her distance, pull back to protect yourself. But when you do, she'll interpret it as emotional coldness. She'll accuse you of not trying. She'll say, "You're different. You've changed," and you'll want to laugh, because you've been the same man all along. She's the one who changed the lens. Her love didn't disappear. It got buried under expectations that no human could fulfill. Because once the mind starts looking for more, it stops appreciating enough. And when she finally realizes what she's done, it'll be too late. Because comparison doesn't just damage relationships, it damages perception. Even if you become the man she once dreamed of, her mind will keep searching for what's next. It's not a flaw in her morality. It's a flaw in modern psychology. We've been trained to seek constant stimulation, to mistake emotional peace for emptiness. So when she looks at you and doesn't feel butterflies anymore, she assumes something's wrong, not realizing that stability and excitement can't coexist forever. She'll start chasing highs in memories, in fantasies, in validation, and every chase leads her further away from home, not your home, but the emotional home she once built inside your love. You'll stand there, watching her drift, and every part of you will want to fix it. But you can't fix a mind addicted to comparison, because the moment you compete, you lose your dignity. She'll never admit she's comparing. She'll call it thinking, reflecting, wanting more. But her silence says what words don't. She's mentally elsewhere. And when that happens, you must understand something. You can love her deeply, but you can't wake someone who's dreaming about a life that doesn't include you. The scariest part is that she might never physically leave. She might stay, share meals, raise children, laugh at jokes, post photos. But the version of her who loved you completely is already gone. And that's the kind of loss that doesn't get sympathy, because no one sees it. There's no dramatic breakup, no clear betrayal, just a slow emotional fading, like a photograph left in the sun. You'll go through the motions together, and sometimes she'll look at you and feel a flash of what you used to be. But it'll pass, because comparison poisons the well. Once it's tasted, every sip afterward feels tainted. The worst part is when she starts to pity you. That's when you'll know it's over, because love can survive anger. It can survive distance, but it cannot survive pity. When she starts looking at you with quiet sadness, as if you're the one who doesn't get it, as if your simplicity is something to outgrow, that's when you've already lost her heart. She won't say it. She might not even realize it fully. But every conversation will feel like translation. You'll be speaking love. She'll be speaking longing. And between those two languages, silence wins. There will come a night when you finally stop trying to fix it. You'll sit beside her in silence and realize that the woman you loved is still sitting there. But her soul left quietly months ago. She'll look at you and smile out of habit, not love. And you'll feel something you've never felt before, a kind of grief that has no name. Because how do you mourn someone who still shares your bed? You'll lie awake listening to her breathing, remembering the way it used to sound when she slept, back when her body leaned closer to yours, even in dreams. Now she sleeps still, facing away, not angry, not distant, just gone. And you'll realize something dark and quiet, that love doesn't die with betrayal. It dies with comparison, because comparison starves love of oxygen. It replaces appreciation with analysis. It replaces intimacy with evaluation. And you can't be adored by someone who's constantly measuring your worth. So you'll stop chasing her, not because you've stopped loving her, but because you've learned that you can't compete with fantasy. You can't fight what isn't real. You can't argue against the ghosts her imagination creates. She'll notice when you stop chasing. At first, she'll be confused. Then she'll test you again. Say something sharp. Withdraw affection. Wait for your reaction. But you won't react anymore. You'll be still. And your stillness will scare her. Because for the first time, you're no longer trying to prove your value. You've remembered it. Men forget their value in love because they start defining themselves through the eyes of the women they adore. They start believing that being chosen is the same as being worthy, but it's not. Being chosen means you fit someone's need at a certain moment. Being worthy means you remain whole, even when that need disappears. When a man learns to love without depending on being seen, he becomes untouchable. That's when silence becomes his ally. That's when peace replaces panic. You'll start to notice the difference in yourself. Your movements will slow down. You'll talk less. You'll stop trying to impress anyone. And strangely, that calm will make you magnetic again, because nothing is more powerful than a man who's no longer performing for attention, a man who no longer fears being misunderstood, a man who no longer begs to be compared. And she'll feel that shift, maybe not immediately, but she'll feel it, because the energy between you has changed. You're not the desperate one anymore. You're the peaceful one. And peace is rare, especially to someone whose heart has been addicted to chaos. She'll start wondering what changed. She'll look at you differently again, but not with love, with curiosity. because you've become unfamiliar again, and that unfamiliarity will feel like the same excitement she's been chasing everywhere else. That's the cruel irony of human desire. We crave the familiar until we have it, and then we chase the unfamiliar until it breaks us. She'll test your calm. She'll say things that once would have hurt you. She'll try to pull reactions out of you, because reactions prove you still care. But you'll respond with gentleness, not detachment, not coldness, just quiet acceptance. And that acceptance will feel foreign to her, because acceptance can't be controlled. Acceptance is power disguised as surrender. She'll notice how your silence doesn't beg anymore. She'll notice how your presence doesn't chase. And slowly, the woman who compared you to every man she imagined will start comparing every man she meets to you, because she'll realize something brutal and late. That the stability she called boring was actually peace. That the predictability she rejected was actually safety. That the man she measured against others was the only one who never measured her back. But by then, you'll be gone. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. Your soul will have already walked out of that quiet room where love once lived. And that's the kind of leaving that never announces itself. It happens silently, with dignity, without revenge. Because when a man truly understands what happened, he doesn't need closure. He's already free. You see, most people think strength is fighting back. But real strength is refusing to fight for something that doesn't recognize your value. Real strength is walking away without bitterness, without theatrics, without hate. Because hate still means you're emotionally involved. Peace means you've accepted the lesson. And what is that lesson? That no matter how deeply you love, you can never save someone from their own illusions. You can never be enough for a person who's addicted to feeling more. And you can never hold on to someone who measures love by comparison instead of gratitude. When a woman starts comparing you, you've already become a mirror she's no longer looking into. She's looking past you, into the world beyond, trying to see who she could be instead. You have to let her go there. Let her chase it. Let her fall in love with what she thinks she's missing. Because one day, when the noise fades, she'll realize that all she was searching for was already standing quietly beside her, waiting. But by then, you'll have built a new silence, a better silence, the kind that isn't empty, the kind that's peaceful. You'll walk differently. You'll look at life without the weight of being unseen. You'll stop seeking understanding from people who can't even understand themselves. You'll stop needing closure, because closure is just another way of asking someone to tell you that your pain was valid. But you already know it was, and knowing is enough. That's when you become truly free, when you no longer need anyone to tell you that you mattered, because your peace will be the proof. You'll learn that being compared was never your punishment. It was your awakening. It taught you the difference between being loved and being valued. It showed you that loyalty without appreciation is just emotional labor, and it made you realize that real love never makes you question your worth. So you'll stop waiting for her to see it. You'll stop replaying what went wrong. You'll stop trying to rewrite history in your mind, because history doesn't need rewriting. It needs releasing. And when you finally release it, you'll feel something you haven't felt in years. Clarity, not happiness, not excitement, just clarity, the kind that feels like standing alone in the quiet and realizing you don't need anyone to fill the silence anymore. That's the end of the story for her, but the beginning of one for you. Because every man who's ever been compared, judged, or silently replaced in a woman's mind eventually becomes something unbreakable. He learns that love isn't about keeping someone close. It's about keeping your dignity closer. And dignity, that's what she'll remember. Not your gifts, not your efforts, not your words, but your calm. The moment you stopped chasing, stopped explaining, stopped proving. Because in that silence, you became everything she lost while trying to find herself. And when the day comes, when she scrolls through her memories and sees the man she once measured against others, she'll feel something deeper than regret. She'll feel the weight of what comparison stole from her. Because comparison promises more, but always gives less. It takes what's real and replaces it with what's temporary. It confuses excitement for connection and chaos for passion. But peace is what she'll crave when the thrill fades. And you'll already be living it. So don't chase what wandered. Don't compete with ghosts. Don't beg to be seen by eyes that forgot what love looks like. Just stand still. Because a man who stands still in truth is louder than any man who screams for validation. And when love returns, in another form, in another time, through someone who sees you fully, you'll understand that everything you lost was never really meant for you. You'll look back at the woman who compared you and realize she was never your enemy. She was your lesson. The lesson that peace is sacred, that love without respect is just noise. And that comparison is the quietest form of betrayal, because it kills without ever touching. And in that understanding, you'll smile, not in arrogance, but in gratitude, because now you know that the man who walks away in peace never truly loses. He simply outgrows the chaos that was never built to hold him. And when she finally looks for you in the reflection of every other man and finds only shadows, you'll already be long gone, not bitter, not broken, just free. Free from the need to be chosen, free from the weight of being measured, free from the illusion that love requires comparison to prove its worth. You'll walk quietly into your new life. No announcements, no explanations, just peace. The kind that doesn't need to be understood, only felt. Because when a wife secretly starts comparing you to other men, she loses sight of what love really was. But when a man quietly accepts what cannot be fixed, he finds something even greater, himself.